What's up, Sterile Processing Universe? It's Hank Balch here from Beyondclean, and I have a guest today with me, Damian Berg from HSPA.
Well, hello, Hank. How are you doing, sir?
I'm getting some feedback here. Let me see. I think that's on my end. Oh, yep, there you go. Okay.
You
A
gotta
little
love
technical
technology
difficulties
nowadays.
here.
No worries, no
All
worries.
right. I should know what I'm doing by now, Damien, but here we go. The guy with the podcast can't get the tech straight. Anyways, welcome to a conversation on the work before us about education, networking, and collaboration in the sterile processing space. Damien, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to talk with us today about this very important topic of collaboration.
Yeah, thanks, Hank. And I appreciate being here today, and all the listeners, all the viewers, everybody out there in our universe. Thank you for watching today, and I know a lot of you guys will watch it later on demand, and I hope you guys get a lot to out of this presentation. I do want to say I'm excited to be here and represent the new HSPA today on this, and we have some great conversation. Some really, as Hank and I chatted earlier, some organic conversation and some good questions. I think that the listeners and the viewers want to watch, want to know, want to hear. I know I do want to answer some of these, and I think Hank does as well too. I tell you right from the beginning, I got a little bit of fuzziness going on. I'm in actually a hotel room in California, Central California. So I am not at the home office. I'm not in my nice professional studio. So thank you guys for dealing with this, but I'm just excited to be here, and it's going to be a great hour.
Awesome. Thank you. So let's get started here. I don't want to assume that everyone who's tuning in knows us. Can you give a little bit of background about yourself, kind of before current state? So what brought you to where you are today? And then we'll spend a little bit of time later talking about what the new role is that you're filling there at HSPA.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, for those who don't know me, I'm Damian Berg. I'm the Vice President of Strategic Initiatives with HSPA, formerly known as ISHM. I took this role over in 1 July of 21, where prior to that, I've been in the sterile processing field for 29-ish years, working in various roles from, again, start out as a frontline tech to shift leader to educator to supervisor to manager, director. I've held just about every title that you could possibly have in the sterile processing field, and just a passion for it. I got bit by the bug many years ago and said, this is now my profession. I did serve 21 years in the military as a combat medic, but I also, during that time, worked in sterile processing, both in the stateside hospitals for the DOD, but also overseas in various what I call austere conditions, which you wouldn't think sterile processing can be done in, but our men and women in service do an amazing job. So always want to give a shout out to those who are currently serving, those who served, and those who have family members of those who serve, because we can't do the job without those. So that's my overall background. But honestly, I'm a servant of the people. I work directly for the executive director of HSPA with a dotted line to the board, which it does confuse people, because I used to be elected president of the board of directors, and
Right.
I'm president of strategic initiatives. So there's a difference between the elected board and staff position. So I am a staff position, working directly on behalf of the organization to advance our strategic plan, to advance our goals, and to have conversations like this. I have hundreds of conversations a week with different industry leaders and educators and executives, as well as our legislators around the country, advancing our profession. So we're going to talk about that. I know we are, Hank, and we're going to dig into that, but I'm just excited to share my role and what HSPA's mission vision is and what we're doing out there, both on the Beyondclean side, but also on the HSPA side.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you, Damien. And a shout out, I want to join your thanks to the men and women in the armed forces on the sterile processing side, especially. It's such a unique pathway into this career, and there's so many folks that have that background that have come over now into the civilian side and are doing sterile processing, or ended up going on the surgical tech pathway instead.
Right.
And we've had a couple of episodes actually to where we dove into kind of what that scenario is in the battlefield setting, if you're doing surgery and doing sterile processing in that austere condition, I think is what you referenced. So great conversation, very, very important work that's being done out there. for those of y'all who don't know me, my name's Hank Balch. I am the co-founder and president of Beyondclean. Been in the industry since 2009, so I still kind of consider myself a baby sterile processing professional, but the years are adding up quickly here. Um, I began as a frontline technician in a hospital in Kentucky. Ended up becoming manager and director of a couple health systems there in Kentucky and Texas. And then in 2017, summer of 2017, we launched this crazy idea and revolution, as we call it, called Beyondclean. And here we are today. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but that's my background. So a big takeaway for this conversation, if you're tuning in live, or like Damien says, if you're tuning in after the fact, we want to hear from you in this conversation. This is not, it's a one-on-one conversation with me and Damien. It's really a conversation at the industry level with anybody that wants to engage in the visions and the context and the movements that are going on between our two groups and the industry at large. So if you're tuning in, we'd love to hear who you are, where you're tuning in from in the comments section, but in particular, what questions, what misconceptions, what assumptions do you have about what our groups do, or what they should do, or what maybe they shouldn't do? I don't know, but we want to hear that. And throughout this interview and at the end, we're going to save some time to address as many of those questions as we can. So please take a moment and put those in. To warm us up a little bit here, Damien, I want to pull out a couple of the most well-known conspiracy theories / assumptions out there in the space that we have heard over the last couple years since Beyondclean is launched, and just the context of what we're doing and what Isham now HSPA is doing. So let me kick the first one over to you. Can you confirm or deny any plans from HSPA to purchase Beyondclean? Is that fact or fiction, myth bust right there?
Well, I can confidently say, without speaking to the board or my boss, that is a busted myth.
Oh,
HSPA
shucks.
has no plan to buy Beyondclean.
There goes my retirement plan.
No problem. I understand it. I do want to tag on to what you said. Yeah, you're a baby in the profession, as you say it. But I'm looking at your glorious beard right there, Hank. And I remember when you didn't have that, and I didn't have a beard either. So mine's not as good. But as you get a little more seasoned, you'll get some of the coloring in there that I've got in mine. But
there's a few strays in there, man.
I'm looking at the names on here, and we've got some great people, but I'll warn you right now, there's one by the name of Mr. Dave Jagrossi that will add these grays to your beard. So just stay away from Dave. So, but yeah, no, it's one of those fun things that do that. And I saw one great question. I'm gonna jump real quick, and you've heard me say it a few times, but the new name, how to pronounce this, came up already on the chat. How do you say the new name? It is, and you heard me say HSPA, and it's your Healthcare Sterile Processing Association. We're not doing a weird take of how to pronounce it, but we don't really, AORN is AORN, FDA is FDA, CDC is CDC, HSPA is HSPA. So I'm diverting a little bit there, Hank, but that's how we do things.
That's fine. I've been pronouncing FDA FUTA the whole time, and so now you finally corrected me, so I'm going to stop calling it FUTA and start calling it FDA the way it should be. No, I'm just kidding. So the next myth out there to bust, kind of comes to me. Is there a secret plan or conspiracy on the side of Beyondclean to take over HSPA? I can wholeheartedly, just as wholeheartedly as you denied the first myth, I can wholeheartedly deny the second myth. We have no plans, no interest to take over anybody, okay? We're doing our own thing. We're meeting our own need. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the interview. But yeah, we're focused, just like HSPA is, on the ball. We got our eyes on the ball. We've got a mission. We got a vision. And we want to take that across the finish line. And we don't have any interest, either one of our groups, in trying to interrupt the great work that each other are doing. So I do want to, that's a fun question, but it's a serious answer. No. The answer is no. So I don't know. Do you want to add into that, Damien, before we go into this next one?
No, I mean, and again, it's funny thing because people have asked what's the relationship between HSPA and Beyondclean, and also what's the relationship between Hank Balch and Damien Berg. We've heard that for years, Hank. And it all stems, honestly, to be transparent, from the 2017 election. But
Which, by the way,
2017, I don't remember that.
yeah, I don't know if anyone knows this, but a large part of the reason that Beyond Clean exists is because Damian Berg beat Hank Balch twice in a single year in an election. If that would not have happened, there would be no Beyond Clean. So I want you to realize that. And I want to say earnestly, like, thank you, right? Like, I don't know. It was kind of fate that decided, but thank you for doing that. But I want the industry to realize too, like, this is true. These are how lives change and directions grow and thing. Like, you went a fantastic direction in leading the organization. And of course, with your new role now that we're going to talk about, I keep saying we're going to talk about these things, but the same thing happened with Beyond Clean. If that election in 2017 would have went differently, there would not likely be Beyond Clean, or at least not in the form and fashion that it is today. So these things happen for a reason. And that's kind of cliche, but all of that happens for a reason. And you're completely right. And I want to affirm there's no bad blood. I should be sending you Christmas presents every year. Maybe I'll add that to my Christmas card list.
I'll look for those, Hank. I'll hold you to that. But again, that's one thing I want to say. 2017 and the history that diverged and changed between the organizations and the people that are right before you. Right. We're not adversaries. We're not fighting. And again, a lot of people bringing this up, we're like, and I told Hank this. I told you this earlier. It's almost like a car accident on a freeway that's been cleared, and it's more action, but people are still driving by, looking and slowing down, going, "Well, what's going on there?"
Right.
So the accident's gone, folks. And now we're focusing on the betterment of the profession and our people, you who are watching. That's my passion, is taking care of you. And I know Hank and his team are the same way, so that you guys can take care of the instruments, thus take care of the patients. That's my goal. It is not living in 2017.
Which brings me to the next fact or fiction. Is it true, Damian, that you have a tattoo of my face on your left bicep with a little heart around it?
Well, I'm glad you said left bicep, Hank. I appreciate that right there. So
yeah, right.
It is not true. I do have, and I will be transparent. I do have several tattoos, actually. I know that doesn't sound very professional, but none of
mine.
Have you on. No.
Okay. All right. Granted. Now, the final question here, kind of goes back to both of us, and we've alluded to it and answered part of it, I think, already. But this is a question that we get a lot on both sides of the table, and it's, are we competitors? Is Beyond Clean competing with HSPA and vice versa? I'll give the first answer here, then Damon, if you want to comment, you can. Absolutely not, for a number of reasons. We are two very differently formed entities. At Beyond Clean, we don't have membership. We don't have a board. We don't have any kind of credential certification program, anything like that. We have two different visions. So we're in two different lanes. We're in the same industry. We're talking to many of the same people, but we're doing two very, very different things. So by definition, we are not competing. Do you want to add or nuance that at all?
No, absolutely. Okay. And again, with respect to all companies out there and all professions and organizations, that HSPA is a nonprofit association. Right. So right there, just by alone, right there, that definition of what we are, nonprofit membership and certification association, sets yourself up. That's not in competition with the Beyond Cleans. We're not in competition with the Skytrons, the Cerises, the 3Ms, the BellyNets. That's not it. We work with all of them, and there are industry partners. There are, we talk about vendors, but we say industry as well. There are industry partners. We have different missions and we have different ways of going about things, and that's okay. We don't want everybody to be the same and look the same, as long as, again, we keep the eye on the ball. And Hank and I have had conversations, I know surprising to a lot of you over the last several months, that we may not agree on everything, but at the end of the day, it is about our people. It's about taking care of, but it's our organizations, and we're not competing with each other in those spaces at all.
Right. So that's a great point. Before we jump into kind of the big bullet point introduction here, I want to piggyback off of that disagreement, because I kind of, I'm a disagreeable guy at times. I've got a lot of opinions. There's no secret about that. And I'm not afraid to voice my opinions publicly. And it's just an interesting time and space in our lives in general, social media in particular. When an opinion gets out there, it can it can ruffle some feathers. But I think it's very important to what you said. It's okay to disagree. I think when some people hear the things that I say or the things I write, sometimes personally, they take it personally, number one, and they feel like if they disagree with me, then we're immediately kind of at odds with each other. But I believe very strongly, and I think you're going to agree with me here, that it's okay to disagree about an industry that you love and to have different opinions about how to improve that industry, as long as you're not getting in each other's way or trying to, submarine what someone else is doing for the cause. If you're if you keep your eye on the ball, like you said, we can all pull the same direction with different tools or different tactics if the goal is to get us forward. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. We all have, and I like your point, different tools and different tactics to do it. I think however we get there, and again, I can say I've come from an interesting vantage point working on the AMI committees. I'll give you a great example of that. AMI committees with industry partners that are true competitors. Now, you talk about true competitors. I won't mention names. Y'all know who I'm talking about, but they're true competitors, but they're actually working together with their own tools and tactics to advance the AMI standards for the end users and industry. So when we're sitting at the table developing these, having conversations, it's through that lens. Now, when they travel off and they move on to other stuff, so they're going to compete with each other because they have competing products. Obviously, HSPA and Beyondclean do not have competing product.
Right.
In fact, HSPA supports a lot of Beyondclean's educational effort, and Beyondclean uses us for the
everything.
And so it's an interesting symbiotic relationship.
Every CE that we have has been approved through HSPA and through CBSPD, right? So like that by itself should be a good example to folks of, hey, we need each other. To your point, it's very symbiotic. Yeah.
And again, I think the ultimate thing that, and again, this is kind of a very tough topic sometimes, but it is good. And I just want to say that is our profession, you are members out there, and put Hank and Damien and HSPA and Beyondclean aside. We want to elevate our profession. We elevate it by being professional. We elevate it by being positive, and we elevate it by knowledge and education. That's how we're going to get there. You can listen to us all you want, but at the end of the day, you have to take ownership in that piece. So
that's
really encourage you as the end user, as a sterile processing professional, the sterile processing professional. I keep saying that over and over again because we have to elevate ourselves up through that lens of professionalism, just like the surgeons and the doctors did many years ago, just like the nurses, the PTs, the OTs, all those different professions out there. They didn't get there by just saying, we're the best, we take care of patients. Absolutely. They got there by elevating themselves through professionalism and through the lens of other people looking at them.
So that's a great setup here. I want to put our first little point here at the bottom. If you've been a member of ISHM for a while, which I have, ISHM now HSPA, you've probably got a pretty good idea about what it does for membership, but I'll let you speak to that. Like what are the perks of being a member of your organization? But then number two, what role does it play in the broader industry? Like what is it doing for people that are in sterile processing, but maybe not members? Or to your other point about the vendors in the space, how's HSPA helping to lift all the boats with the rising tide?
And again, that's a great thing. And I've used this analogy before, but I didn't even know you were going to say the boats with the rising tide, because that's actually feeds into one of my favorite sayings.
Okay.
Because it is rising tide, but it's actually almost waves. And that's the way I look at it. And people have heard me speak, know that I talk about there. There's always next wave coming. I don't care what that wave is. And if you're not ready for that wave, through professional development, through certification, through education, through all the things that Hank and I are talking about, and many of us professionals that are online talked about, that wave's going to pass you by. And so what HSPA does is, again, you're good. Thank you for teeing that up, because we are a certification agency. We're also a membership. That's really what sets us apart. And it is the power in the membership and the power of the members and the power of our chapters that get us ready for that wave. And so when that wave comes, think about all the stuff you're going to do, all the skill sets you're going to gain. HSPA and other organizations that provide education, like Beyondclean, like other ones, will help that get you a surfboard. And that's the analogy I like to use. They will get you that surfboard. So when that wave comes, you can ride that wave versus have it pass you. A lot of people say, how can I be the next supervisor? How can I be the next, I've had this, and trust me, my ego's big, but it's not that big. But how can I be the next Damian Berg? I said, nobody wants to be the next Damian Berg. I don't want to be the next Damian Berg. But you get there by being ready for that wave. I spent many years of preparing, and I know, Hank, with you with Beyondclean, many years preparing. And when that wave came, you wrote it, and you're still writing it. That's what HSPA can do for you. So again, Word Power is not only certification. If that's all you're looking for, we're here for you. But the membership part of it, and then that comes with the not only just getting a magazine. A magazine is important, and our Process magazine is amazing. And I'll give a shout out to Julie Williamson, our editor. It's an amazing magazine with awesome content in there. But it's not just about the magazine. It's also about being part of something bigger than yourself. So that group of members, and we use that membership for a lot of things around the country and around the globe. And I'm glad I just thought about this in my head. A lot of people ask me, HSPA doesn't have an I anymore. And I see a lot of international folks. We are still international. That is still in our mission and our vision. So being an international member, we have international chapters. Being an international member still is valuable to us, and we still support you. I travel the globe representing you as well, too. So just keep that in mind that, that's the difference between a certification and a membership. And that's not saying anything that's bad about any other organization out there. That's just what makes HSPA, I almost said ISHM. That's what makes HSPA unique and special in my mind.
That's good. Well, there's a dispensation of about 12 months, I think, for still saying ISHM every now and then in our language. And we'll actually get to some specific department level applications of that. And then I know we need to cover on what does that name change implications actually have to do with us on the front lines and our departments, et cetera. But before we get to that, let me go through a counter example, right? So you just did a fantastic description of the way that your organization supports the industry, supports the membership. And just so everyone is clear too, I'm a member. I have 4 certifications through HSPA. I've been on the item writing, item review for the certifications, did the pilot exam for the CER. Like a lot of my life and background, I know I kind of skipped over it, but I was pouring and continue to pour into ISHM, and ISHM pour into me. And so what Damian's talking about is true. Like a large reason that I'm where I am today, knowledge-wise, credential-wise, obviously, is due to this organization and its work. In the context then of Beyondclean, what are we doing? What role do we play that is perhaps different in the other groups out there? And I think an important point that Damian kind of alluded to is we see ourselves more in the space of media, of education and networking, but not education in terms of certification or college programs or anything like that. We view ourselves really as that social media nexus. It's connecting, yes, education, but education through podcasting, through virtual events, through webinars, through the conversion types of technologies that we're doing, and things like creating behind the scenes tours, like this video series we have called Beyond the Tour, that we're going to some of these manufacturers and taking a look that 99.9% of every sterile processing professional will not get the chance to go to a national headquarter of a manufacturer. Like you and I have, Damian, like I'm sure you've been to a lot of these manufacturing headquarters, but that's not real life for most of our technicians in the field, even managers and directors, especially in the time of COVID. Nobody's going anywhere. Well, through some of these kind of innovative media approaches, Beyondclean is trying to break down some of those walls and get our frontline more engaged with the industry out there that is serving them through the vendor side, is serving them through the education side. And in our vision, then, we say that we exist as the central nexus between the people, the processes, and the products that are pushing the industry forward. And that products piece is another big differentiator. ISHM and HSPA has to be very careful with how you interact with vendors because of the nonprofit status, because of the membership, because of the board and everything else. We don't have to be as careful because we're a business. And as a business, we can do things marketing wise and business wise that it's still, I believe, still benefits the industry, because anyone who has walked in a sterile processing department knows you need products to do our jobs. We need instruments, we need chemicals, we need equipment. We got to have those things, and we want good things if we're going to be buying those things. So I think there's a big need to be aware of what that is. But again, our vision differs between the two groups in a very important way, because we're leveraging social media to have those conversations. To go on here to the next point, what should your members, so we talked a little bit kind of high level, like what's the role of your group in general for the industry at large, but what should members in particular in 2022 be looking forward to this year?
Well, a lot less conversation about COVID, that I hope, but no,
Amen.
It's going to be there with us. I won't get into that right now. I think, before I tag onto that, because this is kind of goes in there, there's a couple questions that just popped up, and I know you saw, is
Sure.
with the name change of HSPA, one of them says, do we have to amend the language in the certification laws that exist now that we are HSPA? Yes, we do. And we are doing that. So that is our advocacy wing, led by Ms. Josephine Kalachi. But also there's a committee of great members that are doing that. So we are spending our effort and frankly our money to change the names, but also work on that advocacy piece. So that is happening. What is important is you guys as members, what you need, or not member, but you guys as sterile processing technicians out there, if you have ISHM in your hospital policy, if you have ISHM in your job descriptions, if you have ISHM references in there, you need to start migrating to HSPA for your surveyors. So it may take a year to get that done, and that's okay. Surveyors aren't going to come in and say, oh, they changed on 1 January, you're out of compliance. But if a year goes by and they start surveying you and you haven't changed that stuff, that's when they're like, well, obviously you're not updating in a relevant time. So your national organization, us, we will handle the state legislators. We'll handle all those legal changes. We can't do it for you at your individual facility. So please start that process of updating your facilities. And we've already had conversations with your chapters as well, too. Several chapters had them do their name change, and they're working on it. So it is there. And again, what about, my friend Steve Maley said, what about language that requires certification bills already passed? Yes, we're going back to that. CRCST, CERs, all our initials are not changing. So those do not need to be changed in state statute, just if it's in the name, they're changing, and we're working on that for the states. So I want to do that. But what's this year forward, we got amazing things. We got our national conference coming up in San Antonio, Texas in April. I know Hank will be there. I'll be there.
We're going to be there. Yep.
I hope we'll see as many of you listeners there. If you haven't, registration's open. I'll do a shameless plug. Get registered. Go. We've missed you the last 2 years. We're going to have awesome vendors, amazing time. It's in San Antonio. We've been there before. Actually, I think, Hank, San Antonio is when we first met face to face, if I remember correctly at that time.
Maybe so. Yeah.
We met down there. So it's a great time. So that's what's coming on. But we also have our foundation. So HSPA has a nonprofit foundation that gives away scholarships to attend certain things, as well as we just announced scholarships for education. If you're getting a bachelor's degree or a graduate degree, we just did scholarships for some of those people who applied this year. We're going to do amazing research initiatives within HSPA. We're also, doing some outreach to the international community, being part of the World Federation. There's just so many things in 2022 that are going on. And the one good thing about me is I love to push. And I think that's one of the reasons why I got the job, but I think they're kind of maybe regretting a little bit, because I know that I get hooked on a subject or a topic and I got a great idea and I said, let's move forward. And then of course now HSPA's leadership is looking at me like, oh my God, Damon, another idea. What are you doing? Hey, I love to move. I love to be a shaker. I love to get out there. So hang on to 2022. We had our first subject matter expert group that met in Chicago this last month to help with some stuff. So again, there's things, it's all opening up. Our chapters are so excited. I've talked to several chapters. They're both not only doing virtual presentations, which is still going to be the wave of the future. We know that. But there's also some live and there's some hybrid. There's just a lot of good movement and organic stuff happening in the industry. And we are part of it. I am here for you. Our board members are here for you. And our industry partners are here for you, like Beyondclean and like so many others. We're here for you. So hang on, but also reach out to us. And Hank and I will share our contact information at the end of this so you can reach out directly to me.
Yep. So you mentioned the subject matter expert event last month. If folks are members and are interested in participating in that, how is that kind of selection process made? Is there an application that you put in? You got to get like referred or something like that? What's the process?
Yeah, we actually put a call. Great question. So we did put a call out there a couple months ago for volunteers, both to be on the education side, on the writing side, on the professional development side. We have several committees, and we take experts. So we had amazing amount of response. You have to fill out the application and submit the stuff like, why are you an expert in endoscopy processing? What makes you that? You just don't say I want to do it, but I've never processed a scope. Well, then probably you're not the subject matter expert. So, and then our staff, the departments, they have a conversation, and when we select the people that can participate. So it's a pretty amazing thing. So just keep an eye out for that. And again, you can always reach out to me, and we'll share my contact information. I see in the chat, Hank, thanks for sharing those. Our chapter representatives and chapter people are putting their contact information out there, because yes, you can join. I belong to several chapters. And if you are a chapter rep and I'm not a member of your chapter, shame on me, but also reach out to me. I'll become a member of your chapter, but I'm a member of several chapters, and you don't have to live in the state necessarily to be a member of that chapter and support them. It's all important. So if you're not a member of your chapter or at least a member of another chapter, get involved. And that's the big thing, is involvement in our chapters. So that's 22 in a nutshell for me and HSPA. There's so much going on, but we have the name change. We got our national conference going, which is the first one again in a couple of years. So we're excited for that in San Antonio.
So Damon, you mentioned a couple of impacts of the name change on the ground level. Is there anything else that you want to kind of bring up or weigh in here before we move on to your new role?
No, I think we're good on that, Hank, because I think we'll definitely hit some more here coming up shortly.
Yep. So you are the new VP of Strategic Initiatives. What does that entail?
So that's a great segue right there. It is basically a catch-all for a lot of things. But the bottom line is, what you may or may not know is the board of directors sits down with the executive staff of HSPA every couple of years and develops a strategic plan. And a strategic plan is how the organization, moves forward and governs what we do. We want to be focused. We just don't want to say, okay, we're doing this, we're doing that. And as new elected board members come in, and they're amazing professionals, you guys have an amazing board. From all the board members on there, and I know them all personally, I'm proud to be a member and have them represent me as a sterile processing tech. By the way, I'm still a sterile processing tech. Did you know that, Hank?
Yeah.
So
I didn't know that, but that sounds great.
No, but I still work. I still kept a per diem status with my old healthcare position. So nice. I'm actually going there next week to do some competencies and stay current. And I want to keep my street cred, and I love processing. So the board represents me too as a member. I vote on the board. So not on the board, but for the board members.
Right.
But I think what's really important in my role is they set that strategic plan. They set those objectives out, and it goes out for a couple of years. But with 40,000 certificates and members worldwide, that's a lot of action to do by our frontline staff. We got amazing staff in Chicago and a few others around the country that do amazing work. But to push that forward and to keep moving that momentum, that's my role. My role is to take that strategic plan that the board approved and chunk it out and say, what are these things and how can I do them? Meeting with C-suite executives, meeting with industry, meeting with vendor reps, working with our chapters. All these kind of things are part of our strategic plan, and that's my role to push that forward. So I'm excited to do that. And it is a catch-all for a lot of things. And I take phone calls and meetings all day long. I absolutely love it. And I love to travel. And as you can tell, I'm kind of a shy guy, so I don't like to talk a lot. So I invite you, if you need me to talk to your C-suite. I just got done talking to a healthcare system last week. I went to their C-suite, met with them, and talked to them about the importance of sterile processing and why they need to pay more attention to them and all that good stuff. But it's coming from a vice president of the association that represents them, which is also very, very powerful message.
Awesome. Well, yeah, congrats on the new role. And we're very excited from the membership side to see what you're going to do for the organization and for the future of the cause. So, yeah, I'm going to be staying close tuned to 2022 to see how it ends up here.
Absolutely.
So transitioning here to Beyondclean, what should folks be looking forward to this year on our side of the equation? Just like with your organization, we're going to be extremely busy for 2022. Actually, since COVID hit, it has just been a crazy world on the cyber social media side of things because everyone's been locked down. You can't go anywhere. So, what are you going to do? Well, podcasts, virtual conferences were a huge boom for us and are continuing. To your point, there's still a lot of interest, a lot of fun things that we're doing through the virtual event space. Right now, we're averaging about one global conference a month, and that's hitting on average about 15 different countries. A ton of different conversations are queued up here for 2022. I think the next one we've got on the schedule is in February. It's a sterile storage conference. We're going to have a tracking system conference, chemical conference, a professional development conference. So if you're into virtual conferences, we've got you covered at Beyondclean for 2022. Two of the most exciting kind of new projects or new opportunities that have come down the pipeline for us is first the sterile processing micro credential that we launched this past summer with a group called CCI. So this is an important point here. It is not a certification. We don't pretend it's a certification, but it's important for folks to know who are interested, especially for all those triple golden crowners out there. We're sitting around and we're like, well, I maxed out all the existing credentials that I can get from HSPA, which is like me, like I've got the golden crown. What now? Well, we've got a great answer to that. What now? And it's called the Sterile Processing Micro Credential through CCI. Put together actually by one of the Isham Scholarship winners this year, Lisa McCown from our team. Tremendous work, really diving into verified competency around the topic of cross-contamination. So check that out if you're interested in, boosting your resume and boosting your understanding of the interdisciplinary challenges around cross-contamination in the medical device reprocessing space. So you can check that out at beyondclean.net/microcredential. Secondarily, and just as exciting, we launched what's called the Beyondclean Advisory Group in the summer of last year, so 2021. And it's a group of interdisciplinary thought leaders from around the U.S. It's only U.S. Sorry, international fans. We don't have an international group yet, but we're talking about it. Anyways, we've got about 100 clinicians right now from sterile processing, operating room, infection prevention, into the C-suite, of folks who have committed to investing in Beyondclean content. So in speaking on our panel discussions and speaking at our conferences, coming on the podcast, giving feedback to make sure that we continue to have a good pulse on what's happening in the trenches, at the sink and decontamination, in the office of the sterile processing manager. So we thought there's no better way than engage those folks through this kind of advisory group capacity. In addition to that, the group is going to be a great opportunity to provide some of that voice to the manufacturer that we hear all the time. Damien, there's always these questions like, why didn't the manufacturer ask someone in sterile processing before they wrote this IFU or designed this thing that can't come apart? Why didn't they ask us? Well, we're like, well, let's create a group and tell them to start asking us as the clinician. So one of the important parts about this group, no offense to consultants, but it's a clinician-only group. So you have to be an active user. I don't even qualify to be a member of the group. You got to be an active user in a sterile processing department or healthcare healthcare facility. So like if you're like a perioperative leader, supply chain, infection prevention, et cetera, you still qualify. But you have to have a commitment and experience into this device reprocessing conversation. So 2022, that group is going to continue to grow, and we're going to be doing a lot of fun, creative things internal through our brand with the members of the advisory group, but also external to give more and more of a voice and direction, hopefully, to our vendor partners on what the industry is asking for and what they want in the future of their products, of the education that they're receiving from vendors, et cetera. So those are the two big highlights that we want to give. All right. as a reminder, we got about 20 minutes or so left on the stream. So if you've got any particular questions that have come up that you want to get answered from the two of us or one of us, just drop that in the comment section. But this next topic is one of my favorite topics in the world. And you've already brought it up, Damien, a couple times here, but I want to dig in a little bit more. What is the critical role that local regional chapters play in supporting sterile processing professionals? Can you kind of give us an intro of like, why do you want to be a part of one if there's one in your area, or why do you want to start one if there's not?
Absolutely. I love this topic. Chapters, and most people who know me know that's how I actually cut my teeth in getting where I'm going, is actually speaking. I had a mentor years ago that said, "Hey, do you want to speak?" And I actually spoke on Halloween Day in Florida for the first time. And I talked about actually my experiences in Iraq and in sterile processing. And that really just got me motivated, sitting in front of a group of people and learning how to speak. But it was the chapters. It was and I've said this word before, it's kind of getting a little over you, but it was the organic, but it was the wholesome part. It was the connections of being with the chapters. And then I've literally probably been to almost every chapter. There's probably a few, I know there's a few I haven't been to, but I was one of the first person to speak in Alaska. I was one of the first persons to speak in Montana for their brand new chapter or their brand new expansion. So it's just been an amazing journey. But the chapters at the local and regional level, why they're so important is we, just like your hospitals, you get caught in your sterile processing world, and I always call behind the red line. We get caught behind the red line a lot, and we don't necessarily see what's going on in our GI friends or our respiratory friends or our OB and our ED until we go to other meetings. And I encourage the sterile processing leaderships to attend meetings that may have nothing to do with you, because guess what? You're going to learn people, you're going to learn what's going on, and they're going to learn your department. Now take that to your chapter and regional areas. Imagine if you don't go to a chapter meeting and you don't meet other hospital professionals that do what you do, then you're not learning them. When you're short on supplies because of the supply chain disruption, or you got a burning question, now you're expanding your network of professionals that you can reach out to, both by picking up a phone call, emailing, or some other stuff. Of funny side stories. I'm actually, like I said, I'm in Central California. I'm in Fresno. I saw some people in Fresno, but I was talking to my 22-year-old niece last night at dinner, and I said, "Email me something." She looked at me. She goes, "Uncle Damien, email? Well, who emails?" And I'm like, "Oh man, I'm so old." So yes. She goes, "Can I Instagram you?" And I'm like, "Sure, I got an Instagram. You can do it,
That's rough.
all that fun stuff." So whatever means you mean, sorry to digress there. It was just made me feel really old last night.
Yeah.
But email, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever it takes, call your professionals, but you're going to find them through your chapters. Mm-hmm. You're going to learn them through your chapters and really move that conversation forward on how we can support you. How we as HSPA can support the chapters is working with our industry partners to provide resources to get you to have those chapter meetings, whatever those chapter meetings may look like, virtual, in-person, speakers, vendor exhibits, all that fun stuff. HSPA National can't run your chapters, but we can support your chapters and provide you the resources, make it easy for you. So your role is to get people engaged, excited about sterile processing, and you can't do that unless you come together. So start that conversation of why it's important to be a member of a chapter and a member of the national organization, and you're going to open up that thing. I know there's several people on here that are very passionate about their chapters, and I can call out names, but I'll forget someone, and that gets me in trouble. So I won't do that, because I know I'll get a text later like you didn't mention me. So that's where I'm excited for that conversation. What do you think on that, Hank?
Yeah, I agree with all the above. I'm looking at it, kind of from the perspective of a guy who, in both Kentucky and Texas, I just happen to be in an area that at one point in the past, they had a chapter that was closed, but the chapter had died away and kind of disassembled. I don't know the technical word for that. It wasn't a chapter. And so twice in my career now, I've started a chapter from scratch, and I can tell you how hard that is in one way, but also how easy it is if you get the right people around the table. But two, and this is direct, shout out to conversations that we've had before, but also to anybody who's ever run a chapter, it ain't easy. It is not easy to run a chapter, to do it well, because sterile processing professionals are busy. That's probably one of the biggest reasons I think that our sterile processing managers and directors struggle at times just in their departments, because they've got so many competing interests pulling their attention. Add on to that running an external group of a whole bunch of other busy professionals who no one has the time to contribute, then you got a recipe for like a very, very heavy lift. And we hear it all the time. From a lot of these chapter leaders, or former chapter leaders, are like, I just couldn't carry it by myself because I needed more help. So I want everybody who's listening to this interview to say, hey, everything that Damien said is true about chapters, but they need someone to lead them, create them, and keep them going. And that someone, if you're looking around and no one's doing it, that someone could be you. Or even if there is someone out there who's the president, I can tell you they're exhausted and overworked and probably at the edge of their rope, at the end of the rope. So reach out to them and be like, hey, I value what you're doing. Is there anything I can do to help you? And I promise you, if they're going to be honest with you, that they're going to tell you yes. So I want to put that challenge out there in the space, but then just echo what Damien said. There's a lot of unmeasurable value in just getting people in our space with our challenges in the same room together on a regular basis to talk, to meet, to network. And there's all kinds of things that you just would never think can come out of that group, but it does. So if you don't take anything out of this interview today, focus on your chapter. If there's not a chapter, reach out to one of us and we can help you get it launched. And then to Damien's point, if you ever run into problems, don't feel like you're out on an island. There are people out there who can help and who want to help, and you're talking to two of them right here.
Yeah, and to tie on that real quick, because there's a lot of good questions right here, and said it, and I kind of glossed over it. I didn't talk about it, but I glossed over it a little bit. There is resources that the national program is putting together. Again, we cannot run the chapter. It just doesn't, I can't run from Colorado and so on and so forth. We need you guys, but we also know that you need resources. So we did form this year, part of our strategic plan, a chapter committee. And the chapter committee now has its members. We from the volunteers, and those chapter committee is made up of our chapter representatives, presidents, or reps. And I don't want to say, Damien, I'll be honest, I never ran a chapter. I've never been a president of a chapter. So I'm not the best person to tell you how to run your chapter, but I know a lot of people. I know people that are good at social media. I know people that are good at running live conferences. I know people that are good at doing books, all the accounting. So we're going to try to provide you mentors and resources that you can pull from and use, so you don't have to recreate the wheel in your chapter or whatever you're doing, because there's a lot of successful people out there that really, know what they're doing. And so we want to put them in contact, and we have all those contacts. We're putting all that together. So stay tuned. That's another good thing coming in 22, Hank. So I'm glad we talked about that.
Yeah. So there was another question here from Ken about the educator certification. Do you have any insight on if that's ever coming back? Is that going to be a thing again at some point?
So
like the ISHM approved educator, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. So not at this moment right now. That's a great question. I hear that quite a bit. And the reason, there's several reasons why, because again, for our certification and our credentialing of our certification, we got to really keep something separate. It's got to be separation of church and state. So again, we don't teach to the test, and we have a certification department. We have an education department. Plus, we're really working on the different type of content. When you just had one educator who was just like, say, back in the day when it was just CRCST, but now we have multiple ones. So it gets a little challenging on how to figure that out on our end. But it is a great conversation, and we are actively having that. I did want to talk about, I think it was, Michelle's question. Hank, can you find that one right up there?
Yep. I was going to pull that one up.
There you go. Can HPA do another tutorial on how to upload certificates from Beyondclean and to credit towards recertification? Absolutely. So we are actually putting together YouTube clips and some other virtual ways of how to upload your certificates from Beyondclean, and which is one of our leader CEs out there, to make it easy for you guys. So yes, we have that resource. It is actually on our site, but we're going to be getting more for you guys. So that is out there. I just saw that grabbed my brain.
Yeah, no, that's great. And honestly, if there's any techies out there who have a better solution than the current state, I'm open to improving the process too, because I know we got a lot of CEs floating out there, and a lot of folks not only submitting to HSPA for recertification, but also to CBSPD, as well as for their nursing contact hours. So I'm all aboard for improving the process, but just come along and tell me how to do it, and we'll have a conversation about it. I did want to throw this up here. This is an important point about finding what chapters are out there. Is that the proper URL, Damien? Do you know off the top of your head?
No. So it's actually
Okay.
www.myhspa.org.
Okay. Good.
So
Good. I just
again,
want to call that out.
It's a little different again when you change your name and things kind of and there you go. Of course, our good friend Sarah Cruz had it out there. She's Sarah. She's that techie, but it's great to do that. So yes, and just think about it that way. It's my Healthcare Sterile Processing Association. That's a good way. That's the way at least I think about it. And it is chapters. It's on there, and it is in flux. But you can always find the chapters on there, and they have contact. A lot of our chapters have Facebook pages or other LinkedIn accounts as well, so you can always reach out to them. And again, as I've said, you can reach out to people like Hank and Beyondclean, or reach out to me, and we'll give you that information. We can also find you and put you, if you're having struggles, we can put you in contact.
I got another question here from Anna about a pathway to licensure. Is there any talk on the side of HSPA around doing something similar and pushing from certification toward that kind of licensing conversation?
Not at this time. There's a lot of steps and a lot of things have to go on there. And I can tell you, we work, one thing you guys don't know, or you may know, is HSPA and AST work very closely together. So we actually do share some of the same lobbying educations, a lot of the same lobbying roles out there. But there's definitely going to a licensure. You got to understand the education implications and the degree requirements and a lot of stuff there. So there is steps we're doing, but it's not anywhere in the near future that we're doing. So again, and again, we work through our strategic plan, our objectives, and there's other things that will set our members up for success before we do that.
Great. So we've already kind of tackled a little bit of this, and I know we got about 8 minutes or so left.
I know, it goes by fast.
Yeah, right. So if you got any remaining questions, throw them out. We're going to take a couple of minutes here at the end to try to do some fastball questions. But this point is about those local chapters, and you mentioned the resources that are coming out, the chapter committee, and the work there. Is there anything else that you want to highlight, for folks that are out there saying, hey, we need help?
I think, I don't want to pound on that drum too much, but one thing I do want to say is I've reached out personally to every chapter out there. But if you are a member and you are feeling like you, again, want to be part of a chapter and help be part of it, attend, I think that's the biggest thing I can say is that we can do it is if these chapters, again, COVID, and I promise I didn't want to talk about it, but I will talk about it a little bit. Before the state of our chapters, I'll give you that kind of real high level. Before COVID, we had really good high functioning chapters that were out there that did great work and had amazing meetings, did networking, did all that stuff. And COVID kind of kicked them, all the chapters in the teeth. And we know all the reason why. The industry's adjusted, and thanks in part to Beyondclean and many others pivoting and trying to fill that void of during no actual meeting time period. But they were strong chapters. Now they're maybe not as strong chapters. Then you had some medium chapters, and maybe now they're the weaker chapters. Then you had some chapters that were struggling before COVID, and now they're either really struggling or we lost a few chapters. But what I can tell you, what's happening now is the resurgence coming. Everybody's like, they're waking back up. They're excited. So what can we do in HSPA? We can be ready for you. We can be excited for you. We can be excited with you. We just need to know. Again, I can't tell you. There was a chapter meeting. I'll give a shout out to the Arizona chapter. The Arizona chapter, out of nowhere, reached out to me and said, "Hey, Damon, we got a Saturday meeting, just a board meeting or a quick meeting. Do you want to be part of it?" And I'm like, "Saturday morning? Sure. What else do I got going on?" Mm-hmm. So I did it, and they've done several of those. They had some other stuff, but they actually proactive. I didn't know that was going on because it wasn't listed on our website, and I didn't know.
Right.
If you have something, let us know in the industry, whether it be through Beyondclean, whether it be through HSPA. So not only can we be there, but we can also share it and like it and get people interested. And if you are part of your chapter, share it and like it and tell people. So that's what we can all do together.
Yeah. That's a great call out. And the only thing that I'll add to that on the Beyondclean side is if you're looking to supplement. Like, we're not asking anyone to turn into a virtual chapter, right? But if you're looking to supplement your education through some virtual education and networking opportunities, we do that all the time at Beyondclean. I mentioned all the global conferences we have, but we do a lot of regional conferences with these chapters and with other chapters out there in the sterile processing space. We got a lot of great speakers through the network over the last couple of years. So if you want that done at a very low lift on your part, you just have to tell us, when do you want it? And do you have any preferences for who's educating? And we can take it from there, literally. So there's a lot of different opportunities like that, but I want to put that out there that it is there for the taking for any regional chapter or just any group of sterile processing professionals, chapter or not. If you've got a quorum of folks that say, hey, we're 20 to 50 folks and we want some education in a couple of months on a Saturday, can you do it? The answer is yes.
Yeah.
With that, we're going to pause here, and I'm going to take another look at our
So I
comments
know
here.
there's been a
Yeah,
message on there for our good buddy Dave and a guy by the name of Jason. I don't know how to say his last name. I'm just teasing. I know how to say his last name. He's going to kill me for that one. So they're talking. We'll take that a little bit offline because that's talking about, and we talked about that a little bit with Hank. You did as far as your advisory group and talking about IFUs and FDA. There's active conversation. There's the new, relatively new document TIR 12, which is telling manufacturers this is how you write an IFU. There was actually a thread on LinkedIn I replied this morning. So there's so much work being done. ISHM, sorry, dang it, I did it again. HSPA, HSPA is active. We have active participation as not only primary representatives, but also co-chairs for several AAMI committees. I'm one of them. Sue Klasik's one of them. John Wood's one of them. Natalie Lynn's one of them, and we actually attend the AAMI meetings, both virtual and live, and we push these exact same things you're going. So we are talking to the FDAs, we are talking to the manufacturers about the end user's voice, and there's also end users participating on there to do that. So there is a lot of good things. So they're getting hit right now. I don't want to say hit's not the right word. They're getting addressed both on the industry manufacturer side, from the healthcare side, also from your association side. So we are working on it. I can tell you that. As you know, standards and government entities, nothing happens quickly. And the challenge there is, as we talked earlier, never give up. You always keep going because that wave will come and you'll be ready. And I love government entities. For some reason, it is frustrating. So people quit and they just give up. And then that's what they count on. We don't quit. We don't give up. We continue doing. And that's what I love about our sterile processing techs, because you guys don't give up at all.
So we've had a lot of conversations. We've kind of peeled back in a couple of things, look behind the curtain, to use another phrase, I guess, to see what's going on in our two organizations, what's the next year look like, where the resources at. For folks who still have additional questions or want to continue the networking opportunity, how do they track you down, Damien? Where can they get a hold of you at?
Absolutely. My email is dberg, D-B-E-R-G, at myhspa.org. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on all those things. So you can always reach out to that. And you can call the main line. I can put that up, but you can look it up just as easily and just get a hold of me. I have a direct line there. So absolutely reach out to me. If I don't have the answer, I'm not going to lie to you. One thing that I've always learned in my profession is I don't fake the funk. If I don't know it, I don't know it. And I'll tell you I don't know, but I know someone who will find the answer for you. And I have the resources to be able to do that, and I will help you.
Awesome. And if you want to get a hold of me, anyone out there, you can track me down at hank@beyondclean.net, or you can check out anything on any of the Beyond Clean channels on social media, and including beyondclean.net to track down the website and all the CE opportunities that we've been talking about today on the show. So Damien, thanks a lot for coming on the show. Thank you for letting me needle you about the tattoo myth there at the beginning. But seriously, great conversation, great opportunity here in 2022 to do some fantastic things, both independently, but also together. So I'm really excited about what the future holds for us.
No, I am too. And I invite everybody to check out our offerings, our websites for both of our organizations. talk to Hank, talk to myself. I invite you to please attend the national conference if you can attend in person live in San Antonio in April. It's going to be an amazing time, and get your chapters going, get back and active, help your chapter be a part of the force. Dave Jagrossi likes to say, be part of the AMI Army. Will be part of the profession, be part of the HSPA Army. Let's get going, and then let's wake up from the last 2 years.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in for this 1 hour conversation, for the great Q&A there along the way. And until next time, keep fighting dirty.